I never expected my 72nd birthday to teach me anything new about my family. By that age, you assume people are who they are. You stop waiting for dramatic revelations. You stop expecting disappointment to surprise you. My birthday fell on a Sunday. My son hosted a small lunch. Nothing elaborate. A few relatives. A cake from a grocery store. The kind of gathering that exists more from obligation than excitement. I told myself that was enough. Then I overheard my daughter-in-law. She didn't know I was standing in the hallway. When someone asked whether we were doing anything special for me, she laughed lightly. "It's just a birthday," she said. "Nothing special." The room moved on. Nobody argued. Nobody corrected her. The conversation simply continued. That was what stayed with me, not the words. The ease with which everyone accepted them. I went back to the table, smiled for photographs, cut the cake, and thanked everyone for coming. No confrontation, no tears. Just a strange quiet settling inside me. For years I had helped with tuition payments, emergencies, childcare, and family problems. I was always useful. Useful, I realized, was not the same thing as valued. A week later, life returned to normal. Or so I thought. 3 months earlier, a production company had contacted me about a property I owned on the coast. My late husband and I had purchased it decades ago when nobody wanted the land. Over time, it had become something extraordinary. The estate had been restored carefully. Historians consulted, architects involved. I rarely spoke about it, not because it was secret, because nobody ever seemed interested. The television feature finally aired on a national lifestyle program. I almost forgot it was scheduled. Then my phone started ringing. Former coworkers, old neighbors, people I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone seemed to have seen the broadcast. The program estimated the property's value at approximately $5.5 million. By evening, my son called. The next morning, my daughter-in-law called. 2 cousins sent messages. A nephew suddenly wanted to visit. The pattern was impossible to miss. For the first time in years, people wanted to know about my life, not me. My life, there is a difference. 3 days later, my son requested a family meeting. Urgent. That word made me laugh. My birthday had not been urgent. My feelings had not been urgent. But apparently my real estate portfolio was. I considered declining. Instead, I called my attorney, not because I anticipated conflict, because I wanted clarity for myself. When meeting day arrived, I walked into my son's dining room carrying a thin leather folder, nothing dramatic, just documents. The room felt unusually attentive. Everyone stood when I entered. That alone told me everything. Coffee appeared immediately. A chair was pulled out. People suddenly remembered manners they had somehow forgotten for years. The conversation began awkwardly. Questions about the estate, questions about the television program, questions about future plans, then questions about inheritance. Those arrived faster than expected. I listened quietly. Eventually, my son asked what would happen to the property. Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. My attorney had arrived. I had invited him earlier, not for intimidation, for accuracy. People become surprisingly creative when discussing money. Facts help. He introduced himself and sat beside me. The atmosphere changed instantly. No one smiled quite as much afterward. He explained the estate structure, ownership records, charitable commitments, maintenance obligations, and legal arrangements already established. Every statement was documented. Every question received a clear answer. Nobody could reinterpret anything. Nobody could pressure me. Nobody could volunteer themselves for responsibilities they had never previously shown interest in. For years, family assumptions had shaped every conversation. Now an independent professional was calmly replacing assumptions with facts. It was the first time I had seen the balance of power shift so visibly, not because I had become more powerful, because reality had entered the room. Eventually the questions stopped. The silence felt different, heavier, more honest. I opened the leather folder. Inside were photographs. Not financial records, photographs, pictures of restoration work, pictures of my husband and me spending weekends repairing structures, pictures spanning 30 years, receipts, letters, plans, dreams, a life. I placed them on the table. You all saw the estate on television, I said quietly. None of you saw this. Nobody spoke. For several minutes they looked through everything. The photograph seemed to affect them more than the valuation ever had. Because money appeared suddenly, the photograph revealed decades. My daughter-in-law finally looked up. Her expression wasn't defensive. It was uncomfortable, the kind of discomfort that arrives when someone realizes they reach conclusions before asking questions. I didn't know any of this, she said. I know, I replied. There was no anger left in me, only truth. That was somehow harder to argue with. Apologies followed, some sincere, some uncertain, some incomplete. Human beings rarely transform in a single afternoon. I didn't expect them to. The meeting ended without drama. No one raised their voice. No one stormed out. No one was disowned. Life is usually less theatrical than people imagine. As I drove home, I realized something unexpected. The television program had not changed my worth. The estate had not changed my worth. The money had not changed my worth. What changed was that other people were finally forced to look closely. And even then, they had noticed the property before they noticed the person. That truth stung, but it also freed me, because once you understand that your value exists independently of recognition, you stop waiting for recognition to prove it. My family became more attentive afterward. Some relationships improved, others remained complicated. Not every wound closed, not every regret disappeared. But when my next birthday arrived, I celebrated it exactly how I wanted. Not because anyone suddenly declared it special, because I finally understood that it already was.